What is up, my ninjas? Shinobi here, another Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls video for you guys, and this is a video that's been requested out of me by a lot of people asking me to give some tips or some general tips on doing greater rifts. Now this is not going to be any kind of class-specific things. These are things that I might cover in future videos, and I also want to take note that all of these things I follow myself, and a lot of top-ranked people I know follow these type of things as well. And to keep also in mind that you may know some of these, and they may sound kind of silly. However, there is some people out there that don't know some of these, and so I want you to keep that stuff in mind. Diablo 3 is not a very, very difficult game, so there's not going to be any kind of crazy next-level stuff in this video, but maybe some things that will kind of open your mind and help you out with progressing in the leaderboards. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my 8 tips to greater rifting in Season 2. Now I'm going to go into these tips, and they're not in any kind of particular order or anything like that as far as importance or anything, but in the very first tip, even though it is kind of an obvious one, I do want to kind of get this one out of the way, and that is, the first tip is gear. Now, it's no secret that gear is very important, but just how important is gear? Well, in my personal opinion, I would say that if you're looking at a whole scale of things, 60% of how well you do in greater rifts comes down to gear, 30% comes down to luck/RNG, 10% comes down to skills/knowledge. Now, with having gear, the reason why it's so important is because players are going to have better gear than you. They're going to be able to push harder, especially if you just have a furnace and he has an ancient furnace. Well, he's going to have a substantial advantage. He's going to be able to clear faster than you. He's going to be able to do the Rift Guardian faster than you. You know, you're competing with other people for your solo leaderboards or for your, group leaderboards. You're competing with these other people that are going to be outgearing you, and if you can't keep up in the gear, well, you're just going to fall behind. Now, it is my prediction, and I've said this on stream, and I do believe this, that at the end of Season 2, if you do not have an Ancient Furnace as a Raid Core Barb, you will not be top 100, because everybody will have one at that point, and, you need to have that. It's a huge advantage, and that's going to be the difference between, some items are the difference between clearing a tier 52 and clearing a tier 54, or clearing a tier 48 and clearing a tier 51. That is a huge jump as far as the leaderboards go, and maxing out your gear as much as possible is very important. Not only just getting Raid Core gear, not only just getting Marauders gear, not only just getting Jade, or just getting, a con or anything like that. It's getting the right stats in the right area, optimizing your gear, getting, resistance in the right area, getting the right crit damage in the right area, making sure that you have, 3 sockets, making sure these are just some examples, for instance. So I did make a series with a bunch of YouTubers and streamers for Diablo 3, covering each class in Season 2, talking about the gear you need to get, specs, builds, everything like that. So if you haven't checked out those videos, I will put them all in the description down below. Definitely check those out, because it's some very important information to doing well in the leaderboards. You need to know which tools to use in order to do these greater rifts. Now, tip number 2 is knowing progressions of monsters. Now, it's no secret that, some monsters give more progression, some give less. They move your little purple bar a little bit more, and some of them move it a little bit less. And, some examples of some really good monsters would be like red zombies, unburied, the goat guys, the teddy bears, the big gorger guys. These are examples of some monsters that are really good. And even though you can't really, make certain monsters be in the game, you can go to the next level, and you can skip certain monsters that, will be a waste of time. For instance, if you have a rift with a bunch of bee guys and a bunch of, the little bees and the succubus or whatever, that's a waste of time. Like, not only are they difficult to deal with, but they don't give a lot of progression. So, the time that you spend in the rifts is very crucial. Literally a few seconds or a minute or a whole tier, it could be the difference between you being rank 50 and being rank 10. So, you know, this is a huge thing. So you're going to learn this stuff over time. You know, if you guys ever watch my stream before, you'll know that I've talked about, you know, which monsters give the right progression, which ones don't. I do feel like Blizzard has some tuning that they need to do in the Greater Rifts, but I've talked about that before. But that's not really the point. The way that the game is right now, you do need to know which monsters are good, which ones are bad, so you can focus more time on the good ones and less time on the bad ones. Now, tip 3 here is learn about each Rift Guardian. Now, Rift Guardians are very important for some classes. Some classes, they you know, like a pet witch doctor, oh, whatever, it's just, I can kill it, it's a Rift Guard, I'll kill it in 1 minute, I don't care. But some classes do need to really, you know, worry about certain Rift Guardians, and sometimes you have to get, like, the right prevent damage amulet, so you have a good chance, and you have to fish for that right Rift Guardian. Now, it's no secret that Stone Slinger is the dream Rift Guardian. Everybody wants to get Stone Slinger. He's awesome. He has half the health the other Rift Guardians do. Goes down very quickly. If you get a nice power conduit with him, you can get a really nice time on your Greater Rift, and you can skip a bunch of levels or whatever. You know, he's really great to get. So fishing for Rift Guardians, even though I feel like it shouldn't be a thing in the game, it is. So you do need to make sure that you know which ones are good, which ones are bad, which ones are going to take you longer. For instance, you have tough ones like Cold Snap, you have tough ones like Sand Shaper. These guys don't spawn adds, so they have more health. The ones that spawn adds have less health, and they take, you know, less time to take down. And especially if, for instance, you're playing a Raycore Barb, you're going against like Saxtress or something, and you get him to 75% health, he starts spawning adds. And then you could stack those adds on top of him and just, you know, charge into them like crazy and do more damage to the Rift Guardian, taking him down much faster. That's, you know, for instance, like I said, for Raycore Barb, that's a good one to get. So knowing which ones are good and which ones are bad, knowing, you know, if you're stuck on a Greater Rift and you're literally at that fishing point where you're just looking for the right Rift Guardian, which is going to happen, you know, getting the right immunity amulets, knowing which elementals they do, which abilities they do, you know, which stuff they do at certain percent of life, you know, knowing this stuff, kind of gaining knowledge on this, so you're going to gain over time, and it's very important for progressing in the leaderboards. Now, tip number 4 here is learn the limits of your class slash character, class slash gear. Now, this is actually talking a little bit more about the knowing progression of monsters, but you want to know what your character is capable of. You want to know what your character can and cannot do. You know, you may get a really super lucky RNG rift, and, you know, you can complete a tier higher than your gear is really capable of doing, and you go, oh, well, I completed that 46, that means I can, you know, with this much time, that means I can definitely do that 47. If you do get a super lucky rift, then maybe that's not the case. You know, if you were to replicate that and get that rift again, which is very unlikely, then you may actually get, you know, another push on the leaderboard, which would be great. Like I said, there is a lot of fishing involved, but at the same time, giving you an example of the Raycore Barb, because that's a class that I'm playing right now, but this goes for all classes, by the way. If you're like an AoE type class, but you don't do very good single target, if you run into, you know, you're doing a tier 46 or 47 or whatever, and the Rift Guardian, you know, an elite has a crap ton of health, 12 billion, 16 billion health, he doesn't have very many adds around him, and you're not able to do a lot of AoE damage to him to amplify your damage, like for instance the Barb, then it might be worth it to either skip him or try and drag him into other monsters. It's actually better for some classes to fight multiple elite packs than it is to fight just one at a time. So that's something to keep in mind. You don't want to, you know, don't be stubborn and don't be like, I can get this guy down, he's at 30% health, I'm just going to get him down. If you don't have any monsters to drag him towards, you're probably just wasting time. So knowing this kind of stuff is very important. So keep that stuff in mind when you guys are, you know, doing these Greater Rifts. Know which monsters to skip. Know, you know, especially when it comes to elites and everything like that, you know, make sure that you make the most of your time by, you know, spending more time on quality things than on, for instance, an elite that is just going to waste your time. Now, number 5 here is something that I wish was not in the game, and many players are starting to get very agitated by it, and hopefully they'll change it in the future, but it is in the game, so I'm going to talk about it anyways, and that is farm as many progression keys as you can. So what I mean by this is, You know, some players, they will, let's say you've completed a 46 and you're trying to do a 47. They'll be like, okay, I have a 44 key. I'll complete that, I'll get a 45. I'll complete that, I'll get a 46. I'll complete that, I'll get a 47. And then maybe on that try, I'll complete that 47. Probably not going to happen. You do need to farm with a group in the trials and get as many high tier keys as you can so that you can have 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200 tries on that tier, so that way you can have more chances at RNG, get those good rifts, and get those really good rift guardians, and get that, you know, that tier down. So it's very important. Have some friends that are demon hunters, have some friends that are crusaders. They'll be very helpful for that. And if you are a demon hunter or crusader, then it's going to be easy for you to form a group for that. But yeah, it's very important, you know, getting those higher tiers, many of those keys to, you know, actually have more chances at doing this. This is something that literally every top ranked player that I know of, and I do myself, you know, everybody I know does this, and you kind of have to do it. I wish that it wasn't really the case, because one thing I've loved about Diablo 3 since day one is it's been a game where you don't have to depend on other people. You can literally do everything yourself in the game. And, you know, having something like trials where some classes just can't get the high enough keys to farm those trials by themselves is pretty unfortunate. So maybe they'll do something about it in the future, but for the time being, it's in the game. You know, get a group, farm those keys, and get more attempts. Now, tip number 6 here is something that I actually made a video about, and I may talk more about in the future as well. And that is learn to plan out your pylons. Now, in the video that I made, I talked about how pylons actually work in Diablo 3 right now, and since that video has gone up, it's got a substantial amount of views. I'm pretty sure that Blizzard has seen it, because I told them to check out the video and everything like that, you know, to see if it's something that they want to fix or whatever, or change or something. Maybe they'll do it in the future, I don't know. But for right now, it's in the game, and pylons work off of progression. So every 10 to 30% of progression that you gain, you will spawn a pylon in an area. When you discover an area, if that area can spawn a pylon, it will. So knowing the spawn locations of pylons can help you plan out when pylons are coming up. There's been people that have been watching me on stream do greater rifts, and I'm like, okay, there's going to be a pylon coming up right there. And they're like, no way, how do you know that? And it's there every single time, because I know all the spawn locations and I know how pylons work. And this can give you an advantage. This can actually help you with planning out your pylons accordingly. For instance, knowing some pylons to save and some pylons to try to get multiple pylons in a certain little area. Some maps are really good at getting a lot of pylons in one area. So you could literally just stay in one little area, farm, kill stuff, and then when you leave, like, okay, I got enough progression, I can go discover this area. You go discover it, there's a pylon there, and there you go. And some of them that are really good to save would be speed pylon, power pylon, and conduit pylon. The reason why those three are a very strong combination is because a speed pylon you can grab, you go grab the power, you go grab the conduit, you know, you spawn that Rift Guardian by the conduit before you did all this, and boom, you just kill the Rift Guardian super fast. And this is unfortunately how you have to actually clear some of the really high tiers. So maybe something like this will be changed in the future, I don't know, but for right now, like I said, it is kind of the way that it is in the game right now. You know, learn these pylon locations, learn when they spawn, and you know, try to spawn multiple pylons if you can, and that'll give you some help. Now, if you pick up like a shielding pylon or something, the only time that I wouldn't save a shielding pylon is if like you're about to spawn the Rift Guardian and you already have a channeling pylon that you saved. Well, you could do like shielding, channeling, and just kind of sit on top of him and do a bunch of damage, or sit back and do a bunch of damage and not have to worry about taking a lot of damage, and you can kind of spam your abilities. You know, that's something that's okay to do, but the strongest combination obviously is power and conduit, and these are going to give you a substantial advantage in these greater rifts, especially on these Rift Guardians that have a crap ton of health, that, you know, help you take them down really quickly, hopefully help you get past the tiers and get a really fast clear. So, yep, like I said, something that's in the game right now, and it's something that is going to help you out a lot. Learn the pylon locations and learn how to, you know, save the right ones at the right time, and learn, you know, the locations of where these can spawn, so that way you can set up for the Rift Guardian fight, or, you know, things like that. Now, tip number 7 here, I think is kind of a silly one to mention, but I have had quite a few players come to me and talk to me about things like this before, so I wanted to add it in here, and that is looking at top players on a leaderboard isn't always a good source of information. Especially in Season 1, this happened a lot in Season 1, I had people come to me and be like, hey, why aren't you using that weapon, or why aren't you using this, or why aren't you using that, or whatever, that guy's rank 2 right now, he's using a Wanda Woe, or he's using this and that, or whatever, you know, and I was like, maybe he's in his T6 farming gear at that time. So, and a lot of players too, they will log out, you know, in different gear, just to kind of throw off people and not give any tips to any other people, and maybe they're using an item that other people don't really know about that much, so they log out not wearing that item, so and they log out wearing something else. You know, for instance, you may I've had people come to me before and be like, oh, is Warcry really good to use in Greater Rifts? And I said, well, not really. You want to use, you know, the Pride Belt, and you want to have your Ignore Pain. And they said, well, I saw the guy that was rank 3, he was using Warcry, and he was using the Warcry belt for movement speed. And I was like, well, he was probably farming T6, because that's not the way to do it. So, you know, sometimes it can be a good source of information because you look at something and go, oh, it's interesting that he went with that combination, but sometimes it's going to be misleading. So keep that in mind when it comes to looking at players on the leaderboards, because it's not always going to be a good source of information. And number 8, the final one here, which is something that I feel like people forget on a regular basis, and that is have fun with it. Don't go on tilt. Don't get frustrated. It's a game. We're supposed to be having fun here. Greater Rifting can be very stressful if you get the shitty Rift Guardians over and over again, if you get the bad levels over and over again, you get the bad monsters over and over again, you don't get the conduit, you don't get the conduit power, you don't get the ancient furnace to drop, you don't get this and that. You know, take a breather, take some time away from the game, play the game in moderation, don't go crazy, don't farm for 20 hours straight because you're trying to get that ancient furnace. You know, it's going to come eventually. There's a lot of time in the season. You're going to get it. You know, it's just going to take time. And, you know, if you don't, that's really unfortunate, but there's not really, you know, anything you can do about it. RNG is RNG. Just try to play as efficiently as you can. And, you know, like I said, try not to go on tilt when you're doing these greater rifts. You get a bad level, you get a bad Rift Guardian, or whatever the case may be, you know, take some time away from the game, go watch a stream, watch another streamer get frustrated on, you know, stupid RNG or something like that, or something like that, you know, come by my stream or something and see me talking about certain situations. But I've had people come to me before and say, you know, how come you don't get, like, I don't see you really get really frustrated when you fail a Greater Rift or something if you're going for, like, a new tier. Like, that was a really stupid situation that happened to you. Why are you not upset right now? And usually I just go, oh, well, you know, better luck next time, you know, we'll do it. Maybe I'll get it next time. And that was a shitty one, and just kind of chuckle about it or something like that. And it's because it's a game. It's meant to be fun. And if you just go on tilt about it, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to go into you're going to be like, oh, I failed that one, and I'm going to get into this rift right now, and I'm going to show them, and I'm going to click it, and you go into the rift, and you're like, oh, shitty bees and succubus again. Oh, God. Oh, whatever. I hate my life. I hate this game. I'm never going to get an ancient furnace. Rah. You know, don't do that. It can be frustrating, don't get me wrong. And some of the most fun times that I've ever had in the game was just laughing at ridiculous situations that can happen in these greater rifts. So, you know, laugh at it. Don't get frustrated. One thing that I've talked about before, when I used to play poker a long time ago, I competed in big tournaments and everything like that. And I would wear my earbuds. And you're going to listen to music and stuff, and the music that I would listen to would be very calming music, not like really aggressive music or something like that, because it would make me play more aggressive. And I noticed that. I was doing that. I was playing more aggressive. So even in greater rifts, I usually will listen, if I'm trying to progress in a greater rift, if I'm just farming, it doesn't really matter, but if I'm trying to progress in a greater rift, usually I will listen to something very calming and something that's not super aggressive or something, so I don't, you know, try to play too quickly and then, you know, die to fire chains and get one-shotted because I made a stupid mistake or whatever. You know, you're not as clear-minded when you're on tilt or you're playing aggressive or anything like that. Try to, you know, take it slow, think about each thing that you do, plan out these greater rifts, and, you know, okay, I'm going to go to this guy next, I'm going to go to this guy next, instead of just, like, hearing some high-tempo music, like, rah, 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 and then you're just like, oh, go, I died, screw this game, you know, like, don't do that kind of stuff. So, like I said, it's a game, it's meant to be fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong. And I think I'll end the video on that one there. If you guys have, you know, found any of this information useful, hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, everything like that. And I do have a lot more tips where that came from, as far as class-specific tips and other things as well. So look for more videos in the future, guys, and look for more live streams as well. And until next time, my name is Shinobi, and thanks for watching.